Are we live? Are we live? Yes, it appears that we are live. So welcome to this new live stream. It's so nice to meet you again and so nice to see you here today. So, welcome. Thank you for your time. Tonight we are going to stay together for about the usual hour or a bit more. And what are we doing today? Today we are doing Q&A. Last time we did a Q&A for the supporters. Today we are doing Q&A for the wider community. This means that I'm taking questions that are that have been added to the form that you find in every pin comment or in every description. Yeah, Windows sounds. Sorry. In every pin comment or in every in every description of every video, and there's quite a lot of them, unfortunately, so I can't answer to everybody. So I selected the things that maybe could be more interesting, probably for a number of people, rather the stuff that I had a good answer for. But before that, in the previous live stream, I've actually missed to address a question it was just a misunderstanding, apologies, from one of the supporters, and he actually made me notice that I actually missed his question. So we're giving precedence to him today, and then we will go. I selected about 12 questions to work on, and I believe there's some stuff that is actually interesting, and I believe you may be interested. But first, I have to make a confession. I have to come clear and have to come out, because I did something that I thought I would never have done in my entire life. It is something which I thought it was totally alien to me. I thought I was nowhere near doing that, and I don't know how to take it because it goes against everything I did so far in my life. It's definitely an outlier. You may say that it is not me, but I think that you need to be informed, and because it's quite important and has some relevance for the channel. And so, I don't know how to say this, but I bought a MacBook. Actually, like this, better. I never thought I would have bought anything from Apple in my life, but this is silent and really smokes smokes my Lenovo Legion. Is incredibly fast. It is silent. It is cheap. I'm still using my Lenovo Legion for this live stream because I haven't finished of configuring everything, because Apple systems are new to me. But definitely in the future, for the way it started very well. But okay, this is something which is let's say, it's part of the logistics of the channels. Let's go back actually, without much further ado, let's start with the question. So the first question that I missed last time, and apologies for this. Actually, let me I can show. Okay. The first question that I missed last time is from Henrik G. that says, I would love if you could explain the role of AWACS. I get the general idea, but there are lots of questions like why doesn't the enemy shoot down the AWACS first of all? What makes you think that it doesn't happen? More specifically, why do the American version have a disc on its roof while the Russian and the Global Eye have a long beam on the top of the plane? What are the differences in radar technology? So, this is, to be honest, it is quite a rather well-known subject, but it's a rather well-known subject, but this is something that may be of interest for a number of people. So it is definitely worth discussing. So AWACS stands for, as Wikipedia says, Airborne Early Warning and Control. The role of the AWACS is to use a powerful radar to map what's available in the battlefield, in the airspace that is part of the battlefield, and exercise the command function. So basically, an AWACS is normally a liner, so a relatively large aircraft with a powerful radar, and a number of people inside, each one controlling a section of the airspace, or, depending on the type of organization that you have, a group of fighters with a specific mission. Obviously, the way that they are used varies depending on the doctrine, and the level of integration depends from the coalition. For example, the NATO forces has an international AWACS force, actually used for NATO activities. Other countries have their own solution, and so on. So basically, the AWACS is a flying command post. Why would you put the commander on an AWACS when you have so many communication systems? Well, first, it's not always on the AWACS, but also having the commander directly on the AWACS improves the it improves. Sorry, I was watching the chat. But it also improves it improves the resilience of the system. And in fact, if the commander is on the AWACS, it is one data link less or one communication link less that may fail. So basically, this is the function of the AWACS. They normally fly in an area or a distance, let's say, that is safe from the battlefield. So they try to stay away, out of range from any opponent, and they try to use the resources that they do have to manage the air battle, or to manage the assets that are actually available at that moment. The modern version of the AWACS in the 21st century they also operate as a data link node, in the sense the information that the AWACS has is actually relayed back automatically to the fighters, and there are different modes of doing that. Every country has its own technology, but basically the targets that are relevant for a specific group of fighters do appear on one of their screen, and they can be used to execute the intercept. Now, this principle of actually putting a radar on a plane is actually quite old. In fact, as you see, Wikipedia here is showing one very old AWACS, which is something that the British did at the beginning of the Second World War, which is a Wellington with a radar on top. And here we also see a Lockheed DC-12, which is a very early model of AWACS. The one we are all familiar with is this one. Basically, is this style of AWACS where you have an airliner fuselage and an airline cell with a radar on top. Now, the question was basically asking why some have a disc, some others have sort of a canoe or anything, or yes, just long-shaped body. So basically, inside here there's the radar antenna. When it is shaped like this, it is mechanically rotating. Okay, so you all know how a radar works. There's an antenna that projects a beam and receives the energy that actually bounces off the target, and to cover the entire space, the antenna actually rotates, mechanically rotates, and it has always been, and a lot of radars actually still work like this, and it's a perfectly viable technology. So this disc actually rotates and steers the beam of the radar around. The other by the way, the Russians also have this kind of configuration with the disc. It's not necessarily true that the Russians don't have discs, so this is a fact. But as you can see, there are also examples of AWACS that don't have a disc. The reason why, because these type of aircraft simply have an electronic antenna, a PESA or AISA radar antenna, where the steering of the beam is not done mechanically, but is done electronically. There is in live streaming which I cover quickly the difference between PESA, AISA, and how they work and so on. So I won't repeat everything but basically it's a different type of radar, more modern. I mean, obviously, if you don't have moving parts, it's probably more reliable. The problem with a configuration like this is that you may have a blind spot, exactly a relatively large blind spot in front and toward the tail of the aircraft. With the rotodome, so with the rotating disc, there is a very small blind spot on where the vertical empennage is. In this case, since the steering of an AISA radar is 60-70 degrees each side, you may have quite a larger blind spot. But I mean, there are advantages. This is, for example, is much lighter and so on. Could be also quite interesting to see that as you see in this Brazilian system, there are some additional empennage, vertical empennage, because actually putting something like this on the top of an aircraft is not exactly straightforward, in the sense that any vertical surface on the back of let's say the center of gravity is not entirely correct, but let's say on the back of the center of gravity has a stabilizing effect in yaw. So if keep the airplane straight in yaw, if there is any perturbation and the aircraft yaws, the tail brings the airplane back in straight flight. But any surface like this, the more you get close to, say, the center of gravity, it should actually be the lateral center of pressure, but let's say the center of gravity, the closer you get to the center of gravity, or if it is ahead of the center of gravity, the effect is actually either not relevant or destabilizing. So in this case, I suppose that this is slightly destabilizing, and so they needed some extra vertical surfaces on the back of the tail. Also, this nacelle is actually producing is certainly producing a wake that is hitting the vertical empennage, so the effectiveness of the vertical empennage can be reduced, maybe reduced, because there's no clean air on it. While in the classical solution like this, the disk is actually mounted in a way that it is normally lifting. So while the aircraft is flying in cruise, it is producing its own lift. And so it's not producing too many loads or strange loads on the fuselage. Obviously, there's drag associated, and actually quite a lot. The AWACS aircraft tend not to be great for performance, which is the reason why they normally are escorted by fighter jets. And coming to another part of the question, they are extremely, extremely precious assets that need to be defended at all costs, because losing one AWACS means losing the control, or means losing the control of the battle space. So that's exactly what, in theory, in a larger battle, you may expect that the two parts will try to hit or try to shoot down the opponent's AWACS. They are not the only element. For example, in the American, doctrine, in the American, there are also different aircraft that can do the job. But the AWACS is definitely the most important one. In fact, the Russians and Chinese have developed very long-range missiles, which everybody is pretty much suspecting that they are supposed to chase the AWACS from a very long range. So this is the reason why AWACS do exist, and what they do, and some details how they are used in a very short nutshell. So I hope I made amends of actually missing this question last time, and I suppose we can move on. The NAPY1, okay, and correct point. The ANAPI2 on the E3D rotates, but it is a PESA radar. Yes, that's true. It's not necessary. You can combine the two, in the sense it is, and it's not the fact that it is rotating doesn't mean that you can't use a PESA or a ESA radar as a radar. Okay. Now let's move on to the second question. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to play around with the. Okay, so longbow, have you worked in aeronautics industry before? Hobart 666, what is your background? Short redacted version. And the amazing Bliat man, are you okay? So there's a number, and this is also a question that comes up quite often in the comments. Some people are asking about who I am, my background, why I'm spending time talking about aircraft on YouTube, and how comes that that occasionally it seems that I know what I'm talking about. So I'll just give a very 2 minutes biography. So I was born in Italy 53 years ago. I'm divorced, happily so. I don't have kids. I currently live in the United Kingdom. I've always been passionate about aircraft, and particularly aerospace and military aircraft, jets, and these kind of things. So when it was time to go to college and university, I have chosen to do aeronautical engineering with a specialization on aerospace systems. The Italian system at the time was different than the Anglo-Saxon system with the bachelors, these kind of things. And I am told that what I have is roughly equivalent to a master in aeronautical engineering. But it was a 5 years course plus 1 year for the final dissertation. So it was 6 years of university. After that, I worked between the end of university through the final dissertation to the end of university, and a bit after the final dissertation, I had the opportunity to work for about 1 year for what at the time was the main aerospace company in Italy. Then I had to leave because at the time there was drafting was still a thing in Italy, and so being an aeronautical engineer, I ended up in the Air Force, and I've chosen to spend I ended up doing. I haven't been an officer. I just did my year a bit more of service, but that was I was working in the ground services. I was actually working in telecommunications. In the telecommunication, doing various stuff, and after that, when I finished my service, I came back to I came back to the. I need to find a job, obviously, but the situation was pretty much for the aeronautical industry was pretty much not great. So what I did, so I found a position for the Milan Airport Authority, where I stayed some time. I stayed a few years, but after that there were problems. Then I definitely left the aeronautical sector, and I went to work in IT, and I'm still working in IT. I mean, YouTube is a side gig for me. I have a main work that still pays the bills, and I'm still working today. So yes, this is basically my story. I hope it is. This clarifies the reason why I'm here. And for the amazing blind man that asks me, "Are you okay?" Oh yes, thank you very much. I'm okay. I am a bit tired, I have to say, in this period, but I am definitely okay. So let's move on to the next question. Metal Fingers. Does the introduction of Russia's Su-75 and the current Su-57 fleet warrant a full review and or a possible restructure of NATO and United States Air Forces? For example, does this lessen of the F-15EX capability and or effectiveness of its planned role? Which I don't understand exactly, but okay, it's quite clear what the point is. So I don't think that because these two aircraft have been introduced, NATO will do anything radical because, I mean, the kind... if you follow my video, you should have learned that pretty much the kind of equipment that is acquired depends more on a number of political choices. And today, you tend also to acquire a number of platforms and use it for a lot of things. So I don't think... so despite the fact that definitely the Russians are trying to do a leap forward in their aerospace capability, and I fully expect that is going to materialize in the next few years, I don't think that we are going to see any radical change or radical reorganization or change of doctrine in the Western Air Forces. I don't think, honestly, I don't think it is justified. I mean, they are already... I mean, the planners are already keeping this in consideration. They're already planning ahead. So, yeah, that's reasonable. Now, does the... no, can you explain... so this is Salvador. Can you explain the pros and cons between close-coupled canards and the loose-coupled canards? I think the close-coupled canards are more aesthetic, which I agree, but yeah, fortunately I don't think this has nothing to do with the design. The Typhoon, my favorite being a Brit, looks ugly due to this feature. Looks like a catfish. I would say that now the plane seems to have been allowed to perform to the full extent of its envelope. It seems more agile than the Gripen Rafale. Could this be due to the more forward position of Canard? Finally, do you know why in the early days of the Typhoon, when it was rolled, seemed to corkscrew, pivoting around the nose, rather than rolling evenly across the aircraft length? This seems to have been largely fixed. It doesn't seem to do this anymore. So, about the last point, I honestly have no idea. To be honest, I actually noticed that it has... that it used to have this kind of strange motion sometimes, but I believe it was sort of intentional, honestly. So I don't know. About the last point, I don't know. But when we come to close coupled and loose coupled canards, yes, there are some differences. There are plenty of videos about the Delta canard configuration, and I invite you to go to the videos of the channel, scroll down a little bit, and you will find them. But we can go through the this feature very quickly. So the one thing that is important to understand is that the position of the fact that you place the canards in front of the wing reduces the angle of attack of the wing. It is it actually reduces the angle of attack of the wing. What does it mean? It means that the wing is lifting less than it would be lifting without the canards. So why would you want to put the canards in front of the wing? Because because when at the range of speeds, because with that configuration, at the range of speeds, it's actually the sweet spot for a fighter, that is the 0.7, 0.8 Mach to 1.1, 1.2 Mach, which is the areas where most of the operations are conducted and the air combat is conducted. Because of the combination of position of the center of pressures, the center of gravity, if properly designed, and the position of the canard, you can be very, very, very efficient. You can have a very low drag, but still preserve a lot of maneuverability. Particularly, you have quite powerful pitching moment. Also, close-coupled canards control the flow on top of the wing and tend to delay the stall of the wing at high angles of attack. The delta wings also tend to fly at very high angles of attack, and so it is positive to reduce. So it's actually good if you actually reduce a little bit the actual angle of attack at which the wing is flying, because in this way the stall will be delayed. Now, this effect is the higher, the closer the canards are to the wing. In the Rafale, for example, are relatively close. The slot between the canards and the wing creates this effect and helps controlling the flow over the wing. In a Typhoon, where the canards are quite far, the presence of the canards has a lower effect, less important effect on the wing, on the angle of attack of the wing. But on the flip side, putting the canards in that position can create a quite high torque around the center of gravity, and this may increase the speed of the pitching moment, and also the cornering speed. So it is a trade-off. You're saying that it seems more that the aircraft seems more maneuverable than the Rafale and the Gripen. I didn't have this impression, but according to what the usual VEG test, let's say, declarations of the pilots that you may find around, probably it's not more maneuverable than the Gripen, but is probably more maneuverable than the Rafale. From this point of view, has more news authority. Always remember that a Typhoon could sort of trade blows with the F-22 in a dogfight, in within visual range dogfight, and the F-22 has thrust vectoring. So yes, that's probably the reason why. So this is basically the difference. If you have the canard are close to the wing, they help to control the flow on the wing and put the wing in a better, say, improve the flow of the wing, and this improves the characteristics of the wing. If they are farther ahead, they create more torque, they have more momentum, so increase the nose pointing authority. Like the pilots say, the engineer would never use this term, but like the pilots say, but they don't affect the wing particularly, so they don't have this beneficial effect on the wing. So this is the difference. Okay, let's move forward. Next question from Rocketman. Can you please tell me how will a jet engine powered by nuclear fusion reactor work? My friend, I have no idea, because nobody built a fusion reactor yet. And we're probably many, many years away, It's one of those things that they always say, there's the famous joke that is used for many things now, that nuclear fusion is the energy of the future, and it will always be. So nuclear fusion is not used. What I'm thinking that you are referring to is the Russian cruise missiles that has been presented 3 years ago. It's called the Burevestnik, which is said. We have to trust. We have no evidence of that, or better, we have one. Get in a second, but apparently it has a nuclear reactor powered jet engine. How do they work? In the usual way every jet engine works. You ingest air, you ingest air from the front, you warm it up, and then you have a nozzle on the back that accelerates the flow and pushes the aircraft, or in this case the cruise missile, ahead. In normal jet, you warm up the air by burning fuel in the airflow. With a nuclear reactor, the air will go through a heat exchanger, will become hot, it will expand, and will produce some thrust. Obviously, what is the advantage of this? Is that since the nuclear reaction may go on for a very long time, normally, you have pretty much a weapon with infinite range. And in this case, however, it seems a relatively far cry, even because there are a number of problems, which I see some of you are actually already aware. So the first one is that to have a nuclear reactor, you can build a very small nuclear reactor, even a nuclear reactor that burns very, very, very hot. And probably it is not impossible to build a heat exchanger that is heating the air fast enough to become usable for the propulsion of an aircraft. Problem is, building a nuclear reactor light enough to fly on an aircraft means that you are stripping all the protection. So that weapon is probably going to be extremely dangerous for everybody around it before launch, when you start the nuclear reactor. And the exhaust is going to be radioactive, because you may expect that it's probably going to be spewing neutrons all around, and they're going to decay, and they're going to produce radiations, which is something I think is terrible. It's definitely not green. You need to be, and it's difficult to see how the Russians may have overcome these fundamental problems. To be honest, in the 50s, when everybody was thinking nuclear, everything was nuclear, the Americans actually thought of building a cruise missile like this. But they said no, basically it's even more dangerous. When it flies, it is actually disseminating radioactive gases and radioactive material from wherever it's flying above. So pretty much it was a non sequitur. Seems strange to me that the Russians started doing this, but that is probably what they're doing because, as someone in the chat was actually saying, there's been an accident some time ago that probably involved the Burevestnik, which actually killed some of the technicians involved in the accident. And in the West, I think in Scandinavia, if I'm not mistaken, they have detected some radioactivity, anomalous radioactivity coming from Russia. So the accident is pretty much confirmed. Some people say that using thorium reactors could work, and the radiation problem is going to be mitigated. I don't know enough about nuclear reactors to say if it is true. Sure, you can build a very small thorium-based reactor, but the point is starting it because you need to melt the salt. So you can't put the missile on a tel or on a rail cart and put it around, because you need to also something to melt the salt, I believe. But so it is something strange. We just know that something is going on. We don't know exactly what. Okay, let's move on. And further question. Do studying control system for missiles and UAV waste time in 2021? I don't understand exactly the question, unless it is a request for a suggestion in what to study, what direction of studying of education the MB wants to take. And well, yes, it is stuff that never gets old. It is something that you can specialize, depends from where you live, because and if you're willing to relocate. But I don't think it is something which is it is something you can invest in terms of education. TurboTax. The reason for the top speed limitation of the F-35 to Mach 1.6 is the not variable bubble air intake. Thank you for your work. Yes. Well, yes, up to a point. So yes, that the diverterless intake have a sweet spot at transonic speed or slightly supersonic speed. Then the efficiency falls below let's say the conventional air intakes. The advantage is there's actually a video about diverterless diverterless supersonic intakes. So go on I invite you to go on the channel and watch it. But yes, their effectiveness at high speed decreases. This said, the F-35 is fat Emmy. Is definitely not the most aerodynamic aircraft in the world. I think it is relatively draggy, even in clean configuration. So I believe this is part of the problem. Okay. MTech, would you like to get your insight? I would like to get your insights on this interesting shaped aircraft that has been recently exposed. So I genuinely don't know. It actually surprised me. I'm sure you all have seen this. It is that aircraft on that thing that appears on a trailer now that is being moved in one of the American bases where they do electromagnetic compatibility tests. I don't know, maybe there's really little to say. It seems something hypersonic, honestly, but I don't know, it could be just honestly, it could really be just a test thing. May not be a real aircraft. Honestly, I don't know. So then Void, who's actually also trying to help me with some administrative stuff, is asking, does RAM coating affect drag properties of an aircraft? No. It's either panels or paint. So yeah, you can pretty much shape it as you want. So it has no particular effect, no more than normal paint, I would say. Then last question, Fort saying, hello, I first want to thank you for your work. Since the kind of information is hard to find on the internet, you may have already answered the question, but if you haven't, I am interested to hear your opinion if there will be some sort of a hard kill active protection system for planes, lasers, kinetic projectiles, or missiles that can intercept enemy missiles coming in from the 12 o'clock position. So this is something that comes up times and again. So far, many have tried. Few have succeeded. In principle, is a good idea, but the problems are the usual ones. The first is that for direct energy weapons, you need a lot of power. And probably you would need to design the aircraft for around the weapon, with drawing quite a lot of power from the engines to be capable of using direct energy weapons that are really effective, mechanically effective, in the sense that heat up the fuselage of the missile and break it up. To do that you probably need a lot of energy, probably still a bit too much. Also, if you use batteries, the batteries are normally quite heavy, so there's still some problems. There have been some implementations, some of them with some results, but still is not a viable proposition, not yet. I mean, I suppose that could progress, like everything, every technology, while it is progressing, is also shrinking and becoming lighter and less power hungry with better efficiency. I believe that direct energy weapons may become a thing. We may also say some limited applications, particularly on naval, on the naval side rather than an aircraft, but they're still not entirely mature. There's still one step to go, probably, but they're not very far. Some time ago, I was less convinced, to be honest, but I can see that they have their reason. I mean, there's a logic behind that. When it comes to missiles, it's even worse, because launching a missile backward is terribly ineffective, energetically terribly ineffective, in the sense you need a lot of energy to compensate for the energy of the aircraft and fly the other way. So it's terribly ineffective. The same is true if you launch over the shoulder, so with the missile doing a 180 degrees turn. So, which, by the way, there are already weapons capable of doing this, and some of the current air-to-air weapons can engage air-to-air missiles with not a great, maybe the probability of success is not great, but in principle they can. Okay, I know that the French with the Mika did quite a lot of testing about this. Obviously, we don't know the results, but it's something that they can. But it's terribly ineffective. Probably decoys make more sense, like tau decoys, or like the Russians have these expendable decoys that are launched. But weapons, projectiles, still a problem. The aircraft, at the end of the day, is something which is moving in one direction very fast. If you whatever you want to do on the back, you have to compensate for that speed, which means a lot of extra energy that you don't have. And this concludes the list of questions that I have selected from the form. There were more than 100, to be honest. Some were just compliments, congratulations, or requests for videos. These, I believe, were probably interesting for everyone who just had an answer. There are a couple of those questions that I didn't have a good answer, and I will never tell you what the questions were, what the questions were. Okay, I hope it was interesting. Now, 50 minutes. I'm way too wordy. So let's see from the chat. Some questions from the chat. Feel free to shoot your questions. The F-35 is definitely obese with plenty of cellulite. B. Griffin 317. Yes, yes. Now there's a method behind the madness, but yes, that actually gives that impression. Yes, still discussing the American variant. I remember Carl Davis. I remember the American variant Doomsday Weapon. Yes, it's true. F-22 is the popular hot chick, while the F-35 is the chubby nerdy girl. I suppose we should write this on the entrance of any F-35 wing. Okay. It is much more weight Big Griffin 317. Again, it is much more weight efficient to try to redirect or spoof a missile than kinetically energetically intercept it. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Everyone, please give a video a like. Thank you. Carl Davis, my wife, JF7 is JF. My wife is JF17. Then. Okay. Okay, lucky you. Ranger, an F1 carrier is more advanced than a fighter jet. No way. I came across these objections a few times. Not even remotely. Trust me. Not even remotely. Actually, what the Formula One is trying to do is to limit the costs. So have research and development, yes, but cheap. So no, definitely no. No problem. Hi, all mankinds and robots. Are you okay? Love from Europe to all. Do you know if Sukhoi 37 is still a project going on or is merged with Su-35? Polar. Yes, no, sort of still uneasy about that. No, I think the Su-37 is pretty much dead. Lockhu, hi, beautiful channel. Does the PLAF have any aggressor squadron to simulate Western fighters and tactics? That's something that I am planning to cover in the future. As far as we know, they don't. They don't have aggressors. Because they always been very So do you know that the Russians used to be during the Cold War very strict and very tight with their methodologies? The Chinese more, okay? So they don't get that. What do you think, big riffing again, what do you think of two-stage air-to-air weapons improving energetics? Perfectly viable. It's one of the way. No, I can't show you. No, Jose Manuel, I can't show you this. No profanities, please. It's not a bad comment, but no profanities. Chris Webb, do you feel that RAF's latest UAS purchase can remain relevant in a peer-to-peer conflict? I would really like to know what the Air Force is thinking, the Royal Air Force is thinking, because the fact that they're not going to complete the line of the F-35s, it's not even clear what they're going to do to the Typhoon. So I really would like to understand what they have in mind. They actually asked to. They're also working on a new family of actually drones, or better, unmanned combat vehicles, UCAVs, which they say it's almost ready, but nobody's saying that. Yeah, I would really like to understand what is going on. Alexander Vatter, one of the long-term supporters. Hi guys, German army is testing a laser gun for drone defense. Any thoughts of that? Yeah, it's the same as I was saying before. They actually direct energy weapons for drones, which tend to be smaller, a bit more delicate than the other stuff, could make sense, and probably you could end up with a ground-based system, mobile system that you can place on a lorry and drive around. Still needs to be reduced, I mean, in weight, size, and become a little bit more efficient. Can an AWACS detect a stealth fighter? If I knew, I would probably be dead. But anyway, depends on the radar frequency and wavelength that they are using. Normally they don't use very short wavelength. They use either the I or L band radars, these radars. So yes, stealth aircraft may show up a bit more, some may be a bit more visible than on a fighter aircraft. I see the British and Japanese are looking to create an upgraded Meteor missile. Why is the Japanese Seeker better? No, I had no idea, honestly. I didn't hear of this. You're giving me news, so I can't tell you. Carl Davis, fascinating talk about L-band radar on Sukhoi 57 chat. Is there any AWACS equivalent? So the radars on the AWACS are a bit larger than, they can be relatively large. So yes, you can use lower frequencies with a better efficiency, with a better effectiveness. So in normal, and as I was saying before, the wavelength, the frequency of the wave frequency and the wavelength of the of AWACS radars tend to be longer than those of the fighters. So yes. What do you think will be, Uncle Heavy, what do you think will be the next big advancement in aeronautics? Has stealth at its limits? Hypersonics, in the sense that being fast but also maneuverable complicates everything. in the sense it is extremely difficult to hit something that is going that fast. So it's very difficult to go fast. There's a lot of problems. There are some old videos about hypersonic flight, which is cover all this part relative to the aerodynamic, which changes quite radically at those speed. Also, the aerothermodynamics is again changes quite a lot of speed. They're a bit heavy, equation heavy. But if you're interested, I suggest to have a good there. But I mean, flying at hypersonic speed. It makes the defense from against anything flying at that speed much more difficult, even though you become probably quite more visible. Fast Ship, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Oh no, I'm faking everything. There's nothing true. Jeffrey Royan, speaking of fifth generation aircraft, what have the Europeans been up to? A whole lot of silence compared to the carnival the Russians have hosting around the stealth Sukhoi. No, there are at least two carnivals going on. One is the British, Italian, and Swedish Tempest project. The other one is the German, French, and Spanish FCAS. Sorry, FCAS sounds like profanity in Italian, so I can't avoid laughing every time I hear that name. The Tempest is going on relatively unharmed. Is moving forward, is inching forward probably rather than moving, but it's moving. The FCAS is continuously in the middle of political struggles, political squabbles, and I don't know. I honestly hope for them that they're going to build something. It would be very, very strange if France wouldn't go alone at some point. This is, again, that's what I'm expecting, to be honest. Winslow Greaves, do you think there will ever be an air-to-air version of the HARM missile? So in a sort of way, it already exists, in the sense that many active radar homing missiles already have the secondary capability of homing on jams. What is little known is that weapons like the HARM or the Russians equivalent, which I forgot the name off the top of my head, so missiles that fly ballistic, do not differentiate too much on the position of the target. In the sense, you can fire and harm to an airborne target, typically an AWACS, so big airborne radar. No, that's what we're talking about. And in theory, they're perfectly capable of engaging those. Other anti-radar weapons, like for example the British alarm, that works in a totally different way, cannot do that. Rosomac, when you fly hypersonic, you get less visible. The air around you, boundary layer, will get ionized, and this will provide a very efficient radar absorbing cloak, whatever. Yes, yes, you will be less visible in the radar domain. You will be highly visible in the infrared domain. Uncle Heavy, many thanks for your answer. Would it be fair to say that you think that insanely fast but relatively easy observable beats slower but stealthy? In many cases, yes. Probably, again, is a matter of targets and situations and defenses, but yes, I would say in general, yes. What do you think on a subject of letting artificial intelligence into the cockpit? Are pilots obsolete? Next big leap. So I don't think that artificial intelligence is nowhere near in the position of doing the job of a pilot. I believe that artificial intelligence at most can operate at a distance, in the sense, for example, that I suppose that a remotely piloted vehicle, those are possible, loses the connection with the pilot, which is also very likely, and then it is smart enough to come back, to abort the mission, come back without just flying straight and high, but being capable of evading eventual menaces. That's what is probably achievable today. Replacing a human mind with artificial intelligence today is not possible. Definitely not possible. Russians claim that they can track fighter jets with their over-the-horizon radars. How credible is that? Is absolutely true. It's absolutely true. It's been verified, and it is also credited. The point is, again, low-frequency radars, very low precision, so they can observe probably aircraft taking off from in Denmark or even in Great Britain or in Norway or in Great Britain, but the position may be off 100 kilometers. The recorded position may be off 100 kilometers. So that's the point. It's a warning system, it's not a tracking system. Chris Webb, the latest HARM also has radar. That's true. Carl Davis, Australia 2, Jindali. Yes, the Jindali was. I thought when I first read about the Jindali, I thought it was something that made really sense for Australia. But help me, guys. I don't remember. I think I've read that they sort of decommissioned it now. Don't know why, honestly. Leopold Grillet, what book would you recommend to get started in aeronautics and airplanes? Just a second. So the book that I always recommend when someone asks me is this one that you are probably seeing reversed. You're seeing reversed by the well-known properties of optics, which is Introduction to Flight by John D. Anderson Jr. This is a very good, if you are just passionate, but a complete beginner. This is an introductory book, but at college level. So it's if you manage to go through all of this, which is, to be honest, quite a lot, it gives you a good primer. Blue Internet. Navy SEALs should cough loudly while entering enemy territory. Stealth doesn't work. I don't really understand the point, but it looks bizarre to say. It was fun to say. Which technology? Iman 7 Trilos. Which technologies do you believe will be used in a 6th generation air superiority fighter? Lasers, stealth, thrust vectoring, cyber warfare, hacking, durability to endure a hit from a missile? Well, I actually like the last one, but it is sort of a non-starter. But no, there's I think the most important parts are the optionally manned version, in which still everybody, I mean, the fact that the aircraft could fly by itself without being with the pilot pretty much not flying the air. If it is on board, is not flying the aircraft, it is just managing the systems. Or literally optionally manned, is capable of flying without a pilot on board. By the way, if you follow the Su-57, we touched this briefly, because the Su-57 actually has been this capability has been implemented because the Russians love this. They changed their doctrine, but they still love to pre-plan the missions, particularly in the air to ground, and this is fantastic for them. So they just put the pilot there to take care of the aircraft just in case something goes wrong. The other thing is the variable thermodynamic cycle engines. So there are engines that can change. So every engine has a range, or operational range in terms of height and speed, where the efficiency is the best. These kind of engines can work with a much larger, or they are expected to work with a much larger range of conditions, and that is going to literally to increase a lot the flight envelope of an aircraft. These are the two things that I believe are probably the most important. Udit Adikhari, what is your opinion on Chinese stealth and Russian stealth? And roughly speaking, how close are they to American stealth? Why are you supposing that the Americans are ahead? No, I'm joking. Sort of joking. I mean, you can't really know. You can't really know. What I've read some analysts that say that the Russians, in terms of stealth, are relatively close. The Chinese are a bit far behind. But in turn, Chinese electronics is probably more sophisticated. So the Chinese active measures are probably better or slightly better, whatever this may mean. Because saying that electronic warfare, something is better than the other, I've already explained in the videos, doesn't really mean a lot. But let's say they believe that the Chinese version is a bit more sophisticated, and so that's the thing. Really, one of the things that is really difficult to know. Rosomac, after the next big conflict, all those over-designed projects will be revisited in favor of something allowing to produce adequate numbers. Maybe not after, but during, probably yes. In the sense that the bottleneck with these kind of big designs is the number that you can produce, because it's not the money, as we always say, it's the actual resources, the numbers of man hours that you need to put in there, the number of the quantity of research that you need to do, the complexity of the whole chain, the whole pyramid that is required to keep the an aircraft to fly a mission is enormous for these systems. And the bigger the pyramid is, the more vulnerable it becomes. So in a long generalized confrontation that is going to be probably 1 or 2, something that goes beyond 1 year, something that goes beyond around 2 years or something like this, I can't. So in my opinion, it is unavoidable, well, to keep the production of this top of the line going, but you need numbers, so you start building something much simpler and less over-engineered, as you to use the term that you say. Alexander, any cooperation plan with Greg Airplanes and Automobiles, for example? Not so far. Greg has been very kind to me in a few situations in which he said that actually prize my videos, but no, we don't have any particular plan. Numbers don't matter when you have a Woods Walk. Numbers don't matter when you have F-22. A 4-ship flight can destroy dozens of enemy planes. Maybe not. A lot of discussion about 70mm rockets. Well, they're cheap anyway. Which anti-ship surface missile do we believe is the best? The Exocet, the RBS-15, the NSM. Oh, that. I always say the question, what is the best, is difficult. It's always difficult to say. It's not really meaningful because it depends. Fit for the purpose. These 3 are fit for the purpose in their conditions, so it's difficult to say. RASM, yeah. the LRAS. How is it pronounced? RASM, LRASM. I don't know. Okay, whatever. B. Griffin 3. I discovered your channel thanks to Greg's Airplanes and Automobiles. But did he mention me? Because he actually left, as I was saying before. I've seen him now. He 2 or 3 times actually commented on my video saying that he liked the videos and so on, and I thanked him and I was very happy for that. But did he mention me sometime? Because if he did, I missed it, to be honest. If someone can point me to that, if he mentioned me somewhere and someone can point me where I was mentioned, yeah, that would be a favor. Okay. Well, see, guys, you're actually having a nice discussion among yourselves, which is great. By the way, is great. One of the things that I really like is the fact that the Discord server there's not a lot of people, but the group of people that meet regularly there, they have very interesting discussions. And apart from the occasional troll, in fact, I asked some people to give me some availability to become an administrator. And if it happens, if there are trolls happening again, I will have we probably need some more administrator. But in general, it's very, very civilized debate and very interesting. I learned some stuff actually reading, and I found also these guys are capable of finding incredible pictures on the internet. Some of the pictures that you see in the Daily Post come from the Discord server. That's really interesting. I hope they will never. They're not going to. They're not going to I mean, they're not going to give me a copyright strike, because I don't think I can use all the pictures that I'm using in all the pictures that I am using in the posts, but don't tell anyone. Chris Webb, I'd love to be an admin. Okay, go on the Discord server and drop me a direct message. Okay, what time is it? 20 minutes past 10 here in UK. So yeah, I think we may close the discussion. So I hope, as usual, I hope it has been interesting. I hope I have answered some questions, and I hope it was worth. It was a good hour and 20 minutes that we spent together. For me, I really loved it. I really look forward to these podcasts, to these live streams, because I really like them. I have some plan to spice them up, but I can't promise anything yet. But okay, so yes. Thank you very, very, very much for watching. There are 92 people now, which is incredible if you think. Thank you for watching. Something that I don't do enough. Thank you very much for the supporters. They are incredible. They supporting the channel financially. For example, buying the Mac is possible because the channel is actually producing an extra stream of money. Thank you very much for your support on Patreon, Subscribestar, and as members of the channel. And I suppose I can say goodbye to everyone. See you next time. Bye. 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 Bye.